Welcome to this week's Qredible live broadcast. I'm excited to jump right in. I have somebody from my industry here today, so I'm super excited to be talking about ads and marketing with Michael Gaman. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll kick it right off. Michael Gaman is a trailblazer in digital marketing for the cannabis industry. He's the CEO of Yerbalist. Is that how you say it? Yerbalist?
That's right.
A leading agency that specializes in Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, advertising for cannabis dispensaries. With over a decade of experience, he's managed more than $40 million in digital ad spend across regulated industries like this. And Michael has mastered the art of navigating the strict advertising rules on major platforms. And I'm going to need validation that this next one is correct because we got it on the internet, which we know is infallible. But nevertheless, it says, known as the Robin Hood of restricted ads. Is that real?
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
I saw that too. I love it.
Fantastic. So he's the Robin Hood of restricted ads. Fantastic. He has helped dispensaries double their online sales in just 30 days by unlocking the potential of social media advertising. Michael is passionate, as you will find out in this conversation, about helping businesses overcome the marketing barriers that they face and stay ahead in a competitive market. So Michael, we are super stoked to have you today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as a trailblazer, you're like a pioneer. You have the arrows in your back of this getting it done in this industry. And we're real excited to have you on because I know you've been at this a very long time. I mean, you've been figuring out the secret sauce, which we're not going to ask you to give away because that's your livelihood. But we are going to talk a lot about what really makes this work around advertising and marketing in this industry. So maybe first share a little bit about your background and how you came about to be one of the leading experts in this industry in this area.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me, both of you. It's a pleasure to be here. To speak to my background, I've been in digital ads for my entire career. So going back 15 plus years, I love digital advertising. And to yada yada a little bit over the legacy market days, which I think we all had a lot of fun in the legacy market days. I did have some experience getting some ads to run back then, but more so 2018 with the Farm Bill really signaled that, hey, we can sell cannabis online again, or hemp or CBD online again. And that's when myself and my business partner really ramped up and started working with some of the largest companies in hemp and CBD. And then a year or so later, we started working in cannabis, who I think we're all well aware of the like Delta 9 and Delta 8 and variations of that. And we started advertising that with gummies and beverages. And it's come a long way since then. Now we're working with dozens of dispensaries and about a dozen cannabis edibles and drinks and vapes brands selling online. So it's been an exciting road, but informed by my entire career in digital ads.
So I know that like CBD is somewhat of a different animal, right? Because, the Farm Bill certainly, changed some things, but I was shocked. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I'm watching TV. I forget what streaming channel I had on, but I actually saw an ad on television for CBD. I think it was Harrelson's Best, I think was the brand. And I like, where did that come from? I didn't think you could do that at all. Like, is that
Harrelson's is great. That's another brand that I've worked with in the past. The regulations are not necessarily clear around like, can we advertise this stuff on TV or on radio or not? I think the regulations, and this is maybe more in your lane, but the FCC and the FDA regulate what kinds of claims you can make, health claims, right. Which we steer clear of making health claims for sure. My expertise is more in the ad platforms, but I think it mostly has to do with what the ad platforms are comfortable with. And when it comes to doing a TV or a radio buy, you have to deal with someone directly, not the software on the platform. So kudos to Harrelson's Own for getting past, whoever was blocking those things in the past, because I haven't seen any TV ads for CBD or hemp.
Yeah, I gotta track it down. It was like 2 weeks ago, and one of the things our technology does is we have these AI bots that basically can go through a website, social media, go through videos, all these different things and these ads, and it will tell you whether you're in compliance or not. But I didn't think about running that, that one against. I mean, I think it was fairly well done. They weren't really egregious at all in making these claims. But it sounds like we're in this environment of a little bit of beg for forgiveness as opposed to ask permission in some areas. Can you talk a little bit about sort of, how this works? Because as Joy said, you're sort of the Robin Hood of restricted ads. She came up with that, I came up with that separately, and we love that, that term. And it's kind of suggests a role in making advertising more accessible for these businesses, which I feel so bad for these businesses because they're already struggling with so many things. I mean, 280E, and they're just hamstrung through taxes. And you just feel bad for these companies who are just trying to make a good, honest, clean living. And then they've got all these restrictions about how to promote themselves. So as Robin Hood, right, of the restricted ads, what do you think are the key things to really helping a company get out there and create a digital ad strategy?
So I feel the same way that you do. Like, if this is a legal product that we're selling responsibly and we're not advertising irresponsible consumption, and we're not advertising it to children, and we're not making health claims, who is Meta or Google or whatever ad platform? Who are they to say that we can't advertise this stuff? And so that's my philosophy on it, and why I'm the Robin Hood of restricted ads. As far as like coming up with an ad strategy or a digital marketing strategy in general, I think any advice that I have is going to be very similar to any strategy that any CPG brand or supplements brand will have, with the added layer of you can't you're not supposed to advertise this. They say you're not supposed to be able to advertise cannabis products. And so, a strategy starts with like build a brand, make it easy to buy, have a website, have the payment methods that make it easy to buy. So not just PayPal, accept credit cards and debit cards. It used to be that you couldn't have a payment processor for CBD and cannabis businesses. Now you can. Next step is have a social presence, have a presence on Google search. That means doing SEO, developing your organic social media, staying abreast of the rules on organic social media, because you can get shadow banned and shut down if you show irresponsible consumption. I think in general, avoid showing people smoking if it's a smokable product. Avoid showing what could imply irresponsible consumption. So, no pictures of kids or in vehicles that I would consider irresponsible, or heavy machinery or anything like that.
Like, you don't want to see a guy driving a bus smoking a joint.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly. And I have, I wouldn't say I run afoul of it because I have good partners, but I remember shooting a video in my car for one of our clients, and like I didn't even have the product on me, but I was like, this is the message. We got to be sending this out. And I sent it to my team to edit, and they were like, we can't post this. It's you in your car. And they were right. And so we didn't. And that's the type of thing that you want to avoid. But that's, social search as a foundation, making it easy to buy, having a good product that people want to refer and write testimonials for. That's the real foundation. If you have that, ads can amplify your success. If you're not already seeing some success with some foundation, whether it's in retail or online, ads aren't really the right next option for you. It's not a magic bullet to save any business where the fundamentals aren't working.
Well, if you really think about, the challenges, as you were quoted on LinkedIn as saying the cannabis sector has transitioned from an era where the product sold itself and revenue was guaranteed to one where competition is fierce. And it's concerning to witness repeated missteps in an industry that should be embracing modern digital practices, which it's you have to be careful of what you do there. But we're seeing the legal cannabis industry overlook critical aspects and overcomplicate checkouts in their online menus. That was your quote. I guess it was about 9 months ago on LinkedIn. And talk a little bit about that, because I think you're absolutely right. And there's ways to do this and get around it, but I don't think many people know how to do it. They're all scared about the compliance there, and money's not always flowing easily to some of these companies when they're getting taxed through the hill. But there's easy ways to get around this, and you've got sort of what's called a unicorn approach to it. So if you could talk a little bit about that without giving away the secret sauce.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for dredging up one of my favorite rants. I love that. And yeah, no, I have my rants, and I really appreciate that you brought that up. Is that I think sometimes people listen to their lawyers a little bit too much when it comes to protecting themselves and the way they do business online. The regulations seem fairly clear to me that you do need to take an ID when a purchase is made for any licensed cannabis dispensary anywhere in the US, just like for an alcohol purchase. And yet I see many of the online menu providers requiring an ID to make an online order. And that's not a purchase. A purchase and an online order are different. An online order is essentially a reservation for a purchase, which you will make in store or via delivery, where your ID will be captured. Now, when you require an ID at an online order, you're adding another friction point to the checkout that is going to lower conversion rates. We've seen it time and time again when our clients are adding IDs at checkout. They're adding a friction point. We notify them of this. Oftentimes, we'll get a response from a lawyer saying that this has to be done, and that's an argument. I love doing this rant. I'm happy to have and talk them through, but it is legitimately hard to upload an ID on a mobile phone when you're making an online order via the mobile phone. It's like, okay, I got to give Chrome my permissions to access my photos, and then I have to take the photo of my ID, and then okay, now I have to click the link. Now I have to go through my albums and find the photo and then upload it. And that ID is going to be taken again when they enter the store or do the delivery. So what's the point? Why did we do that? The other one, part of that rant is like pickup times. I think in any dispensary that has a good pickup procedure shouldn't need to ask the customer when they're going to come and pick it up, because regardless if they're there in the next 5 minutes, it should be a very quick pickup time. And if they're there in an hour, it should be a very quick pickup time.
Or just say we're gonna reserve this for 6 hours and put it back into inventory, or whatever the time frame is, right?
Yeah, or that, exactly. But why make it the customer's problem? That's really, it's an operational problem. I don't know about problem, but it should be operational. Let's not put it on the checkout. I've seen similar things with D2C. I'm frequently ordering from our clients' competitors. Some of the cannabis beverages I've ordered in the last week, I ordered $1,500 worth of cannabis beverages to see what their checkout flow was. I want to see what their packaging looks like and what shipping methods and their leave-ins.
We're coming to your house. $1,500. Wow.
Oh yeah. Well, come on out for the video shoot. We're gonna do some comparison ads. Brian, do you want to try it?
Hey, I'll be there, man. Especially because you're where it's warm. I have to get out of New Jersey.
Yeah, come on down to Phoenix. And I noticed that. So I ordered from 10 competitors these cannabis beverages, and checkout by and large was very similar across all of them. And then one of them sent me an email after purchase requiring an ID for verification, and it says it nowhere on their website. And I mean, I think for a lot of customers, they're not gonna follow through with that. Like, hey, cancel my order. Why do you need my ID when no one else did? So
now Michael, is that for like age gating? It's because we're seeing that as well. And now I know we're seeing age gating because we have varying levels of age gating solutions available. And I mean, from the lightest, to the heaviest, right? And we let the customer decide which, and we'll give some guidance on what we think, should be done. But you're right. I mean, one of them that we have a customer right now implementing, and we're doing some A/B testing on it to see how it impacts with the extensive one versus the non-extensive. But the extensive one is really we're going to check a database, and if we don't have you in that database, then we're going to require you to take out the license, take a picture. Like you said, I mean, that might be easier to get a blood sample, based on some of these restrictions on these systems and allowing it, to use your camera and all that other stuff. So you're talking about the general cannabis side, but I know you've sort of ranted on age gating as well. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe that we should be doing age gates. I think it's one of the least that we can do to add some verification post ad, post click. I don't necessarily like to see the complex age gates where you have date selectors, but my preference, and you'll see on any of my client landing pages, is the yes, no, I am 21 plus. I think that does the trick from a legal standpoint. I feel like I've done due diligence there to ensure that someone is 21 plus, and for a lot of the internet, we're on the honor system. But when you ask for IDs, good on you for trying that out, but you are going to lose people at that step in the funnel. People who don't have their ID on them or just don't want to do it. And that's a decision that you have to make as a business owner.
Well, I think there's a difference too if you're in CBD, where it's largely ordered and fulfilled in an e-commerce model, versus in a marijuana, cannabis, true cannabis selection. You can reserve, like you said, you're reserving the product, and then you have to show up and pick it up, and then you have to prove that you are who you are and you are of that age. So a little bit different, I think, between the two, because there's a little bit more of the pinky swear, trust me, on the CBD than there is on the marijuana, where, every state's going to require you to check in when you pick up the product.
I think, yeah, you nailed it. Especially with the Delta 9 stuff that's being sold online. It is the honor system. I mean, I think the industry should be self-regulating as best that they can. CBD, I think, is pretty clear to me. It's, for the most part, non-psychoactive, a pretty safe supplement. When it comes to the Delta 9 stuff, the 1-to-1 stuff, that's where maybe there should be some better regulations on that. But truly, the tools aren't great either. And getting to use them costs money. You have to be on a platform like Shopify or WooCommerce and then get the plugin. And Qredible is probably has great info on this stuff. I just run the ads. I don't build the websites or do the ID verification, but I do tell my clients when they add stuff like this that most likely and usually it does affect conversion rates. Something that the alcohol industry has dealt with that we haven't had to deal with unless we've voluntarily done it.
And somebody asked me, they said, so what differs your e-commerce platform, which we offer on the, for CBD and hemp, from Shopify? And I said, well, we're Shopify with guardrails, right? So we're Shopify with all those tools built in from a compliance perspective. Or if somebody's using Shopify or BigCommerce or one of those other systems, WooCommerce, we have those plugins. And they're guided in compliance, but sometimes that compliance can, as you're stating, could really get over the top and get in the way of cart conversion and true commerce. I mean, commerce has to be safe in the industry, but there has to be some guardrails. But I want to hear from, because I think there's this blend. There's this right blend of compliance and digital commerce from a marketing perspective that can solve these things. And that's largely what your rant was really about, is that, we've sort of, we're impacted on truly embracing modern digital practices. So, how can we adapt, to keep the conversion high, and truly help these companies that need help. I mean, they're struggling out there, because you also mentioned, which is absolutely right, it's an extremely competitive market. I mean, and it's getting more competitive.
I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, something my clients will hear me say constantly. But I am always going to advocate that if this is a legal product and we are not advertising irresponsible usage and we're not advertising to children, that adults should be able to buy it easily. And so I do vet that my clients are not trying to just sell it to just anybody, and I do want to make sure that they're including their disclaimers that this is for people for 21 plus, and this is includes X amount of whatever active ingredient. And I think we're for the most part on the honor system here. And it's unfortunate that you can get a credit card at 18, but you're not legal to buy some of this stuff till 21, and that's leaves this interesting little gap where I think if you could get a credit card at 21, it would be clear to me that anyone who's used a credit card to buy online is of a legal age, or their parents should have been doing a better job of guarding the card.
So
what do you think about that?
I had a quick question. So last week we had a cannabis law expert, Aaron Pelly, on, and he said, I start every conversation with my clients basically saying everything we're doing here is illegal. Because cannabis is federally illegal. So I'm interested when it comes to the ad space, right? Like, as a marketer who is not in cannabis, I do not know of a scenario in which you can get away with paid ads for CBD or cannabis products. So I guess my question is not like, are you a criminal? My question is like, how do you do this, right? How do you think about it? What's the approach? Yeah, that's what I want to know.
I think he's right to an extent, but I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a policy expert, but in my experience, legalizing hemp kind of opened Pandora's box on legalizing cannabis. As far as I know, these are the exact same plant, and the regulations kind of define the two based on percentages of active ingredient, when in fact it's not quite that cut and dry. So I would say it is legal. It's just a matter of like the technicalities of the active ingredient. Now, when it comes to like advertising this stuff, the ad platforms do allow CBD advertising if it is a topical. They explicitly allow it. Right. It's not regulated by the FDA. Then to some extent, they allow CBD edible advertising. They definitely allow CBD pet shoes. That is allowed, because that's also not regulated by the FDA. Anything that's for pet products. Then we get into like CBD and THC, and the ad platforms are pretty clear that these are quote unquote unimproved substances, just like anything else smokable. They don't allow anything smokable. How do you advertise this stuff? Well, these companies are monoliths. They cannot review every single ad that goes through and every single landing page. They rely on review tools, mass reviewing tools. So we get a lot of ads through. We also have to understand compliance. I would say that, like, of course, we have to understand the rules that they outline, but then we have to understand our experience, what gets through and what doesn't. We've tried to push the limits. I want to find the line of when we create an ad, how risky can we get? And I think one of the best examples that I have is that, like, we censor every mention of cannabis or weed, but how much do we need to censor it? And so I think if you've seen our ads, and if you're in Massachusetts or California or Michigan or many of the states that we're in, at least for dispensaries, or nationally, if you've seen our cannabis D2C brands, you'll notice that we censor many of the letters, but leave the W and the D, or if we're censoring cannabis, we have the C and the S at the end. But the entire middle part is censored with asterisks or blurred. And we've found that if we do less than that, we pretty much always get rejected and our ads don't run. If we do more than that, we would probably get our ads to run. But I do want to imply, and I do want the customer to know. I don't want to have to let them get to the end stage of the buying process to find out what this is. I don't want them, if they don't want to buy this stuff, I don't want them to click.
Right. Now, I've noticed that X has relaxed quite a bit some of their cannabis advertising policy. And the thing that always like confused me when I was looking at some of those, it requires advertisers to be licensed and pre-authorized. Okay, I know that there's some of those that going on in Meta for CBD as well, but they're restricting advertising to jurisdictions where the advertiser is licensed to operate. Well, how the heck do you do that on an internet-based social media platform? I
don't know.
I mean, that's just crazy. But I mean, that's neither here or there. But I think it seems to be that you've really been helping companies understand how to really maximize their online presence as well as sort of their marketing and promotion, because we've talked about overly complicated age gating. We've talked about what we haven't talked about, which one of the things I know that you are focused on is the absence of menu items above the fold on the homepage, missing deals and promotions, lack of convenient one-click, add to cart functionality. When I was looking at, I think that was part of one of your rants of, actually, it was a really cool, hey guys, you really should be focused on these things. Common issues and glaring problems involve a lot of these things, inaccessible guest checkout options, so I would imagine that one of the things that, you tell me, you're helping these companies really maximize their online presence so they can increase conversion. So there's one thing getting people to come to the site. That's obviously important, but once they're there, if they're there, there's been some money spent to get them there. So
right.
So make sure that you can capture that customer while being compliant. So excessive ID requirements, like you were talking about, overly complicated age gates, inadequate pickup instructions. I've never really heard anybody talk about these things because I'm always looking at it from a compliance perspective. And, if you listen to the lawyers, then nobody's buying anything. So,
right.
So I think that you're really helping. I think that's very valuable because I know some of our customers definitely could use some of that advice.
I would love to. I think, I have rants here. I try to stay in my lane in the ads game and acquiring customers. And yet I'm held to the numbers and the results. And at a certain point, I can't influence unless the client listens and takes the advice. Oftentimes they will. But then other times, we have to refer them to a CRO expert who really claims expertise in this space. They'll probably say a lot of the same things that I do. But if they're listened to and understood, then a lot of those changes will be made. I think you've honed in on something that's particular to the cannabis industry. Is this is a new industry, and many of the people who got into it are not coming from some other direct-to-consumer industry or from CPG in any way. They're coming as brand new entrepreneurs trying to sell online, and in a lot of ways, they're not leveraging common knowledge that you would have if you were in CPG or D2C in any other industry. Things that are obvious to me because I've been doing this for 15 years in a variety of industries before anything super regulated. And so they're missing these opportunities. And I think it's very, very widespread. I know it is.
Well, it doesn't help if they spend money getting people to the site and they're not converting. So it's
exactly,
it's kind of both go together. So I certainly know some folks that could use your expertise. I think a lot of companies out there can use your expertise. why don't you tell our listeners, Michael, how they can get in touch with you and your company and start working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Search me up on LinkedIn, Michael Gaman on LinkedIn, or you could go to yerbalist.com. That's YERBALIST.com. There's a contact form at the bottom of the page, and we'll hop on a call and show you some case studies, demos, et cetera, and sort of walk you through the program. That will be the best way to get in touch with me. Otherwise, I'm at MJ Biz and NECAN and all those shows, but how are you going to find me in the crowd?
And he's thrown a big party with those THC drinkable products.
Yeah, if you're in Arizona and you want to appear in an ad and talk about THC beverages and give them a try on camera, I'm always looking for people to tell me exactly what they think, even if it's not favorable to my clients.
I think I might just take you up on that. Joy, why don't you tell us about who's going to be with us next Friday on Qredible Live?
This is a great episode. I appreciate you being here, Michael. We'll have to introduce you to Paolo Sobral. He does cannabis beverages at Sierra Nevada.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
you might even know
good.
Paolo. He's with a new company now on cannabis beverage, and you guys would hit it off really well. We definitely have a couple folks we want to introduce you to because you're doing great work, and it's really great to have you on the show.
Anyone who can
thank you both for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you for being great hosts.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Next week we do have a special episode. So as you may or may not know, Brian is Fitz on Life on LinkedIn. He's got a newsletter and he's got, video series, but he also does guest lecturing at universities and in their business departments. So Brian has a really big heart for mentorship, as do other professionals in his network who have a lot of great experience. And we think that there's a huge opportunity within the cannabis space to bring these gentlemen and these professionals with extensive experience to these young entrepreneurs who are trying to make it, right? Who have a dream and are, in the hustle. So next week, we're going to have a special episode on our Qredible Live broadcast. It's going to be 45 minutes long. It's going to be Brian, and it's also going to be joined by a gentleman called Phil Huff, who is from Focal Point Coaching. And Phil has extensive experience as a CEO. And also has a real heart for coaching up the next generation of great leaders. So we definitely hope you'll tune in. We'll be recording the episode and making sure that one's especially available on our website, as this one will be. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Yes. And if you're a young CEO like Phil and I were, we were CEOs in our early 30s and faking it till we made it and not necessarily understanding everything we were doing. There's going to be some great advice for young and emerging leaders that aspire to be CEOs or are CEOs. So join us certainly next week at Qredible Live, Friday, 3 p.m., 12 o'clock Pacific. So thanks again, Michael, for being here with us. I know we're going to be in touch and love to have you back again.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Brian.
everybody.
Enjoy. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.